the cake.
Here we go.
See how pretty. She wants to eat the cake. Yeah.
Light, please.
So nobody falls down. You see the pretty cake? You want Katie and Nate?
Hey! If I could have your attention. One of my favorite movies is It's a Wonderful Life, and at the end of the movie, you know, James Stewart opens a jacket cover, Tom Sawyer, and inside the Angel Clarence is written, "Remember that no man is a failure who has friends." And I thought of my Uncle Gene. And I also thought of a paraphrase when Harry Bailey looks and says, "To my Uncle Gene, the richest man in town." Thank you.
Let's hear from Uncle Gene.
Thank you.
Get the bouquet out of the way.
What's that cake?
Showing up for the real reprobate.
What's that cake in the birthday cake? What's in the birthday?
Really quite lost for words. I did have a manuscript, but too many pages. Ronnie and Pat and all you other wonderful, beautiful people. I must share a few things with you, some sad. But Long, Mississippi, and I remember this, we drove from Waynesboro, Dad and Mom. Dad was a good friend of Burkett and Jeff Collins. Burkett Collins was circuit judge at one time, many, many years ago. And Jeff Collins and Dad were both trying to search for the meaning of life. and I think continued to search for that until they lost it. But anyway, I remember the bridges that you'd come through the boat on the swamps. This was way before the lake. But Long, Mississippi has a very special place in my heart. It's the first place I ever rode a streetcar, which was from Laurel to Ellsworth, when my eldest sister, first only sister, Hazel, who, by the way, married a Jones County in a Wyndham, and she went to school at J.C. Later on, she taught at Sheely, which is a tiny community between Lake Oklahoma, but it's on the Cleole Raider Road. I know James Ray would know it.
He's crazy.
But that first streetcar ride, and also Laurel, though, was really not town, because the railroad went to Meridian, and Meridian was town. You know, it cost to ride a train unless you kind of not put something else like. But in any event, the first elevator ride ever took, and was at the building, First National Bank is all I remember, and then it became something else, and then something else, and now I don't even know what it is. But in any event, there were people that had offices upstairs that were very wonderful people. Friends that I remember long gone, Quitman Ross. Very dapper man, and you'll remember for his good nails. Good Lord. And he loved to hear himself talk. I might be But when I first came to Laurel, Mississippi, seeking my fortune, really that was, I really didn't think like that. I was not an athlete. My brother Flaw, who recently went to a maybe better place, but he kind of took this place right here. But anyway, I met Judy King, who's still with us, VA, Charlie Crumley, John Neal, who's still with us. John and I, we ate lunch over at a boarding house, and I get to think and cannot remember names anymore, and I'm sure it's just red wine. Anyway, I've had just so many wonderful friends here, but I want to mention those who've gone, who encouraged me to, first Stover Smith hired me to work at Dixie Electric, and I commuted, and the driving back and forth did not wear out a beautiful 1949 Ford Coupe, spotlight and fender skirts. But either Judy King or someone else convinced me to trade that in, and I really, now as I think back, it may have been Ed Covington who later hired Red Caldwell as his car salesman in Waynesboro to buy a 1950 Torpedo Buick Special, which I immediately had Mr. Rogers put zebra customized. Then came one of the great breaks. Really. Judy King had sold to Jack Rose, a very prominent, wealthy jeweler, and a good friend, precious fellow. You remember Rose Jewelers on the corner. Had sold him a 1953 Studebaker. And when Jack drove the Studebaker, picked it up in the rig, drove it to Florida, and there were some people on the bus that looked at this small, what is that? And he thought they laughed at him. And so Judy said, Jane, if you will trade your Buick to me, I can sell Jack Rose a Dassault. The Studebaker, and there's a picture of it on the table in there, one of the most magnificent machines today would be a #1. It was so far ahead of its time, it was scary. But that began an experience that I had in financing. Red Caldwell, and I think Red may still be a living legend, well, a legend anyway. But he explained about what I could do in the art of financing. You don't have to pay a monthly note. Well, after that sounded great, and so it just continued to balloon. Well, to make a long story short about the automobile business, I traded the 53 Studebaker, which still is as modern and as fine a machine as I've ever driven, whether it be Cadillac, or whatever, and even some of those Japanese cars. They know something about automobiles. But I got out of the finance business after finding out that when Red put me in a Renault, it was a 4-door. It may have weighed 1,200 pounds soaking wet. I had 2 or 3 babies at the time. I guess it was a thing to do. Because I did not have to pay enough. I wound up owing $11,000 on a Renault that you couldn't give away. Things continued to work out. John Neal, V.A. Liberto, Kent Jones, great, wonderful people. Bill Patrick, so many people encouraged me to do something else after Stover Smith had hired me to go to work at Dixie Electric. And a Mrs. Darnell said there's an opening at Guff. And Guff had the office up there across the street in the beautiful Presbyterian church. And that was a great experience. People like Harold Eaton, now gone, Loris Keys, Terry Perkins, they still be living over in Eunice, but they were so kind to me, and but I still was not happy, and it was tough with maybe at that time 3 or 4 children, and $300 a month was really not the going wage for anybody, unless you work for the county. Harry Perkins recommended me for a job with a service company, oil representative, Garrett Oil too. Just, you know, right in the day of the heights, they flew in helicopters and seaplanes, and I didn't know anything about it. I could change, you know, if a flat, I could not fix a flat, but I could put a spare tire that properly aired. I could jump the car, but that's about the extent of it. But in any event, after that experience, I went to work for Garrett Oil too, and I don't want to omit John Neal and my own experiences at a wonderful place, Mrs. Mizell's boarding house, where I met James Hester, who became my circuit judge, and John and I commiserated with each other. He and his broken hearts, and I really probably didn't know what he was talking about, but I was too selfish. I only thought about the way I felt. But I tried to commiserate with each other. But then, later on, after I called my brother, I was frightened to death of oil field work. I realized the danger. I could not stand the seaplanes. Helicopters were even more frightening. And I may or may not have coined the phrase, but as most of my friends know, that especially Marquis Dale, that I really don't like to fly. I have always said I've never wanted to get any higher than a bottle of gin. But I called my brother and who I, by the way, was quite instrumental in having him move over to Jones County, and I love Mississippi. And there's so many people. Bill Patrick, just everybody that I've loved through the years that are no longer with us. But Nemo moved over here, and I called Nemo, and I said, Nemo, I've got these girls, these beautiful girls, Kay, Debbie, two others, Diane and Tracy. Diane is in Miami, and Tracy is in Denver. And but I need a job. Can you pay me $500 a month? I'll do whatever. And I had drafted a little. I've been challenged. I am certainly electronically challenged. And I have trouble with, switches or anything like that. Most usually my mother, usually and just to follow up on that, and as I digress, and you can throw things if you want me to stop. There's one of the great fallacies about whether it's in the Bible or whether it's wherever, that about spare the rod, spoil the child. I don't believe that. My brother Paul, at the age of 2, and I was 4, we had a lady, Lossie Ellis. I think she was flawless on me. And Bob was, I think, almost 2. And I was not going to push the kid. So they took me to Mazingo. And Mazingo was a little elementary school. Dad, I think at the time, was teaching at UConn. And to see me would appreciate places like that. But at Mazingo, I had the wonderful experience of going to school with some great people, not my mother. She was a great person she was. She didn't want me in her way. So they kept moving me to get me out so that I wouldn't know. And so there was a Harry Hutto, and he taught. Travis Strickland, and as you will remember, he later became Superintendent of Education in Wayne County, and a very precious person. And in the event, they built a new school, of all places, Whistler, which was a new high school. And my mother was going to teach the 4th grade as I got out of the 3rd grade, and for some reason I wound up in the 5th grade. Then to 6th and the 7th grade, and then 1937, before high school. And before I forget, Denton Gibbs, a great guy, partner with one of the dearest men, and he really encouraged me so much later on, asked me, he said, Gene, you went to B4 high school. What kind of symbol did you have for B4? You know, the mascot? I said, I don't think we had a mascot, but we had a big B and a 4. But in any event, eventually, Stover Smith gave me a job after I tried to teach school in Fruitvale, Alabama, where I tried to chastise one 8th grade kid, and after he whipped my ass, the principal was one-armed. a really nice fella, Mr. Coker, and he took care of that young man. By the way, later on, the young man came to me one fella, hugged my neck, and said, I was wrong. And I said, yeah, but you whipped me. But in any event, after wonderful, whatever, trying to grow up, and being encouraged so much to go to law school by David Welch, probably more than anyone else, Lord Chew, people that I knew really cared and really encouraged me. And then later meeting wonderful folks like Bill Devers and even discussing the law and with the help of Bill's, and I will say this, Bill, your brother-in-law Eddie Addy, who's really a precious individual. And we did try to close the holiday and not because of any illegal activity. But I went to law school and it was a wonderful experience, and it changed my career. And of course I met James Ray Bush and Double A Bush and the wonderful people, and lo and behold, and of course at that time the railroad and the Bushes were the only people you could sue. James Ray and Harry and Mel and all of them knew the situation, appreciated it, never held that against me. I even represented them. So I felt like, it's not like you're a prostitute if you're a lawyer. Although that in any event, I want to introduce my family, and then I'll shut up. My eldest daughter, Debbie Smith, married to William Walton Smith, who, by the way, is a successful oil man. And I'm not talking about William Team that we used to put on our hair. My daughter Kay Scarponi, and her beautiful daughter, my granddaughter Gabby, her husband Richard, who has had, by the way, at the time that Kay's mother Bonnie was dying with Addison's disease, Richard had a liver transplant. A wonderful husband, Doug Hornsby, whose grandmother is Clara Sekou Hornsby. We're talking about the Biloxi folks. But is still practicing law, and I'm sure she would admit to being not 90, but maybe 88. But just wonderful experiences that I've had. And then I have two daughters, one in Miami, Diane, and she has two children, Dane McBride, and a beautiful daughter, Bo, who is now living in Ocean Springs, and Tracy, who is living in Colorado, and this is kind of weird, and really bizarre, and it really should tell us about how close we are to a lot of things. Tracy has three children, and a beautiful daughter who's married to an architect, a son, and a baby girl, married. They're grown. Two of those children were students at Littleton, Colorado High School. The year before a tragic event transpired, but they had decided to homeschool those two kids. The oldest daughter was going to the community college there near Columbine, and one of her teachers, and by the way, the oldest daughter, Ada, married to an architect from Canada, the precious fellow. They still live in the Littleton area. But one of Haley's instructors was the mother, one of the kids that was the shooter. So we see how fragile everything really is. But the fact now, to another child who has law roots, Kimberly Thompson, her husband Dean, beautiful children here, Mary Lacey and Micah, and Kimberly was so wonderfully received in Laurel, Mississippi. She almost, she was what, a golden girl, almost a Dixie darling. I don't know about a lot of other academic accomplishments. She now works for, and this is ironic when you talk about not a cynic or an agnostic, that's wrong, but kind of a fellow that was kind of always on the far edge of things. She now works and is a member of probably the largest Baptist church in Plano, Texas, and where she is, I guess, we can house for young ministers. And she has, her oldest daughter cannot be here. Natalie is a freshman at Trinity University in San Antonio, and Mary Lacey is a freshman at Prestonwood Academy, and Micah Dean is, where are you? He is in public. When you go,
and he refuses to do anything else. He is a public school boy.
right, he is that. But then I don't want to miss any of the other kids.
You're old. Don't forget him.
Well, I think that's precious. Kay's baby Gabby, and I've told you the story of Richard Scarponi, who got a liver transplant, and you know that offer couldn't be refused. And here is Brooks Hubbard III, my oldest grandson, with my first great grandchild, a daughter, Brooks. And I have named her. Her mom was a Harper Lee fan, and her mom was Melissa Banks. So why not name this beautiful child Harper Banks Hubbard? Is that enough? I want to talk about a person. I'm not going to tell him the story. Can't tell a story. The boogeyman. This lady here, Dorothy Kelly, who, by the way, went to B4, and able to finish at B4, for now it's just an elementary school and part of all the whatever. But enough about all of that. I do want to mention the wonderful people that were so kind to me. I had mentioned Footman Ross, George Maxey after I finished law school, the teachers up there who were so kind. I was not a good test taker. I panicked. But on Sunday, I had federal judges. I had people like Curtis Coker, Forrest Jackson, Kenneth Perry. I had Bob Hallberg, one of the great federal prosecutors. Billy Etheridge, who was a wonderful Supreme Court judge, who was handicapped, but such a wonderful person. When I called them and talked to them for help as I prepared for the bar, they took person, come to the office, a personal tutoring. That's the kind of people. So that's why the law profession, despite its bad name, is not the worst in the world. But most important, I love Laurel. I love James County. My cousins, Shannon, his brother, Donald's, John Frank, Sheep, and Shannon and his wife, Catherine. And she was a Jonestown. Just all of you wonderful people. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'd so much rather you come by and sign the register here than at Ralph Campbell.
The floor is now open.
But no, I have an email that Hazel Wyndham's oldest child, Sonny, sent, that Ronnie just passed to me, and I would like to read it verbatim someday. It's from Sonny Wyndham, my first cousin, Gene's nephew. As some of you may know, I didn't get much support from my family to attend college, the exception being Gene. Fortunately, I received an athletic scholarship to play football at Jones County Junior College. Again, Gene was always there to provide encouragement. That enabled me to attend the first 2 years of college. However, I needed 2 more years to get my BS degree. While I received a football scholarship from Gene Stallings at Texas A&M, it did not work out. That's a story for another day. Gene was quick to provide assistance and personally drove me to Mississippi State to talk to Rabbit Brown about opportunities at MSU. While I decided not to pursue football any further, Gene's morale and financial support was the only way I was able to complete my first semester at MSU. Ultimately, I graduated with a chemistry degree from MSU in 1968. Without Gene's love and assistance, who knows where I would have ended up. If ever Gene needs my help in any way, I'll be there in a heartbeat. Sorry I can't be present today, but I'm there in spirit. Have a great day, Gene. Another family member, my father, G.C. Clark, who is Gene's only surviving brother, who will be 92 next month. I visited with him today on the way down from Oxford, Mississippi, and my mother, and I asked for stories. My father's suffering from early stages of Alzheimer's, so he can't remember much. He said something about a dog he shipped you from Menor City when he was a teacher and a coach up there. You may know what it means. I don't know.
I certainly do.
Okay.
He was his first job as coach at Menor City, right out of Greenwood, and the dog had been given, and of course, as creative as I've always been, the dog was a black chow, and it was sent to us, to Florida, on the bus.
Well, you said that on the bus.
On the bus, and the people called from the station in Waynesboro. And it was a beautiful black chow, and it was given to him, and this stuck in my mind, and it said a Jewish family had sent the dog. So, with my razor-sharp mind, I knew exactly what to name that dog, Jewy. And we loved Jewy, and Claude and I, first night, cold, we slept on the sleeping porch. Of course, it did have some canvas and the screen, which made it a little warmer during the winter time. But Mother would talk about, I heard y'all arguing about quit pulling the cover off of Julie.
And I asked my mother, who's 88, if she could remember some stories. She said, when your father and I first married, I used to go to Waynesboro to visit, Daddy's family. And I guess you would have been, this would have been they married in 1939, so you would have been what? A youngster.
12.
She said she would go there, and you and Flock would milk the cows and bring, or cow, I don't know if it's cows or cows, and bring fresh milk to the table, and said y'all were snickering all the time. So she wouldn't drink the damn thing. And I asked Daddy, I said, what were they snickering about? And he said, well, my guess is the cow had stepped in the bucket.
Charles, I love you about that, but my dad, a wonderful person, and I want you to look at his picture there at the table, but he never bought a cow that gave milk. We had to take and when the cow feed went to $2.50 $100, he still bought cow feed and milk was $0.05 a quart. If we ever had a cow that gave more than maybe a half a gallon a day, it would be milk.
So we didn't get our math skills from our grandfather. At any rate, I would just like to wish Gene, or raise my glass to Uncle Gene. I'm proud to call him Uncle, and say that he's one of the smartest people I've ever known. I've never known him to forget anything. He said he forgot something tonight. I don't believe it. He's got the most photographic memory of any human I've ever met in my life. The only fault he has is a huge Crimson Tide fan. What I don't understand, you were reputed never to miss a game for some period of time, but you don't fly. How did you go to Honolulu to a game? That's what I don't understand. Is that a story for another day?
Well, is that a hula dance for you?
Anyway, on a serious note, he's the most loyal, unselfish, supportive family person I've ever known. If there's ever a wedding or a birthday or a funeral or a ribbon cutting, whatever it might be involved in family, he and Dorothy are going to be there to support the family, always. They've been a great support to my mom and dad. So on behalf of the G.C. Clark Jr. family, I would like to propose a wonderful, happy, and healthy 80th birthday. Here, Wait. Got a claim.
So wonderful.